Yeah.
Right, I'm delighted to welcome onto the How to Cut It in the Hairdressing Industry podcast somebody that I think is the real one to watch now. So welcome along, owner of Wildflower in Dublin, Danielle Garner. Welcome along, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Super excited to have you here. It's been good watching your journey. So much is happening to you, and I've got to say, congratulations. Last year, I believe you won It List Entrepreneur and Most Wanted Best Client Experience 2022.
Yeah, it was wild. That was such a great experience. We also won them. I won to watch Entrepreneur and Best Client Experience. It was wild.
That's mental. I mean, that really is such a big award now by our friends at Creative Head, isn't it, that they put these awards on? How did it feel when you won that? And, have you seen a difference to just things that you're doing in general, sort of industry to industry, by winning awards like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think just to start off, it was a beautiful experience to write down my whole career and create nearly like a portfolio. So I could see what I had experienced and what I had done in my career. And then to actually win it, to finalize I think I finalized in 5 for the event. And that was like the most anybody has ever finalized, they said. And then to win 3, I was honestly blown away. I could not believe it. I think as well, yeah, it was like the it list. I thought that I wasn't able to enter it because I had turned 30 in January, and then I realized that we could enter it for one more year because it was your 30th year. So I was really happy that we could do that as well.
I mean, like I say, it's incredible, and I know you've sort of had a great progression, and there's been certainly some accolades along the way, but that must have been a really, big thing for you personally. I know our listeners, and certainly our How to Cut It community, are always keen to. Is there any tips on having success in such major awards? Is there any one tip that you could just give to anybody that's maybe entering these types of awards?
So I had help from my business mentor, who is Carrie Fitzsimons from Kit Studios, and it's not like she told me what to do because it was our first time entering it together. Like, she had never experienced it either, but we really got help with like getting what we needed to say down onto paper, and then someone looking over it and saying, okay, this is how you should articulate words. So not like just even getting someone to read the copyright so that you can understand the correct amount of English and the right words to use that is pleasing to the eye. That was really helpful. But I think in terms of even getting started, it's probably the hardest competition to enter in terms of the amount of information you need. But when you are just open and honest and showcasing your vulnerability, you're not like, I didn't go into it being like, I want to win this. Obviously, I wanted to win it. But what I went into it saying was, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to like big anything up bigger than what it was. I'm going to state what we've actually done, and I'm going to state it because that's who we actually are. It's not, we're not going to make this thing up to big us up in the industry. I just want to show the world and the people in the UK and Ireland what we do as a team and what we do as a company. And then if they like it, they like it. If they don't, at least I was honest. So that would be my biggest tip.
Love that. Thank you so much. Big shout out to you, Carrie, by the way. Kit Studios, becoming a real powerhouse. I actually reached out to Carrie recently just to bring her onto the podcast because I think I'm just so excited by what's coming out of Kit Studios right now, and people like yourself, Danielle. So, great stuff. I think that's and you have been doing things differently, Wildflower. I think it's a way that you look at your business, and it's just a different take, and I think that's what's getting so many of us noticing what you're doing. I think a different take. So I do want to go into that and learn a lot more about how you're growing this business and your different take. But let's just get a bit of a backstory to you, because there are always people out there that think, I don't know, Danielle. It's
Yeah,
how come she suddenly rose? But you're based in Dublin, Ireland. I believe you
yeah,
started your hairdressing career back at Peter Mark in Dublin, 2008. Now, sort of recognise you do international session styling, ambassador, multi-award winning entrepreneur, educator. You're a leader, salon owner, as we say, of Wildflower. That is a huge portfolio of things that you are already doing. But let's say you started back in 2008. How would you best describe that journey that you've been on that's led you to where you are right now?
So I can't even explain to you how much I've always wanted to be a hairdresser. Like, I would have always said I was a nerd in hairdressing because from the ages of 7, I would be like braiding my cousin's hair or like cutting my Barbie's hair. Like it was genuinely like just a passion and a desire to just create beautiful hair. Um, and then I actually started in a place called Herman's in Dundrum, and I was 15 and I wanted to do work experience. So this is while I was still in school. So when I was a young 15-year-old hairdresser, I do things there is they like would train you up in your skill set, and I would do classes. So I would go to school, then I would go to classes on a Monday, then I would go to work on a Tuesday, Thursday, and a Saturday, and any other day I could get there. And I'd take 2 buses to get there.
Oh,
And what I learned in this salon was my technique and my craft of like doing a really good blow dry and even just learning how to weave. The way that we did things back then was as soon as you learned how to weave, you would be on the floor doing highlights. And that was just like you were thrown into the deep end and you would sink or swim. But I always wanted to swim. So I always like was doing clients on the floor because I just wanted to do hair so much. Um, but on side of that, on the days off that I wasn't in work, I would ask my friends in school to come home to my messy teenager bedroom and do their hair. So I have literally done every single bad hairstyle that you could ever imagine on everyone in my local town from when I was 15. And that kind of gave me the step to not be afraid of making a mistake.
I love
And
that.
then,
I love that you say that. Sorry, I jumped in there. But
okay,
I think what's really good is that you've already got a real skill set in hairdressing so young, and that is going to give you that confidence when you start that training, which I guess you was going to lead us into.
yeah. So yeah, I've messed up so many people's hair. It was a lot. And then I'd start to like YouTube videos to cut my friend's hair and stuff. But then, when I was going to do my leaving cert, I wanted to start my apprenticeship, and I remember, um, I wanted the day off before my mock exam, so it was like the exams before your real exams, and I remember them saying the manager at the time said, if you want the day off, you're going to have to quit. And I was like, well, I am not gonna not do my exams the way I want them to be done. 'Cause it's the only time I can get them done, even though I never want to be anything other than a hairdresser. And I just decided that, sorry, that's my neighbor. I just decided that I quit. So I then created this A4 portfolio that was a luminous pink with all of the pictures of all of my friends' hairs that I still have it. All the pictures of my friends' hairs that I'd done in my bedroom of before and afters, and I brought it to Peter Mark and I said, please give me a job.
They must have been blown away by that. I think any salon owner would be like, "Wow, this kid is really keen and has a passion."
I think originally they actually were like, "Oh, we don't have space," and I was like, "Oh, I'm still coming."
I wouldn't
The
have let you
actually,
gone.
yeah, the first when I went to Herman's in Dundrum, the my original what actually happened was I did my work experience for a week, and then they were like, "You can start your job when you're 16." So every week for like 6 months, I rang them to remind them that I wanted a job in January. My birthday is January 2nd. And honestly, they told me that the only reason they gave me a job is because I didn't stop ringing the phone, and they were like, "Oh, we need to just give her a job because she won't stop ringing." And I kind of did the same thing for Peter Mark. I was like, "This is where I want to be, and I'm not going to take no for an answer." So I ended up getting a job on like the north side of Dublin that I'd end up getting two buses to every day. It would be like an hour and a half commute. When I did eventually get my job, and I remember the day I got that, it was the day before my last final exam, and they rang me and said, we have a place opening up in, it was called Peter Mark and O'Connell Street, and would you like to start on, say it was a Wednesday, would you like to start on the Friday? And I remember changing from like a higher level to an ordinary level so I could leave an hour earlier so I could go home, pick out what I was going to wear, and then get to the next place because I was just so excited to start there.
Why was hairdressing so exciting, and what was it that made you feel that this was a career that you were going to geek out over? And I love that. I love how we geek out about it, but why?
I don't know in terms of like a specific point in my life where I felt I had to be that. I've always been very crafty and artsy, so even like when I started my senior school, I got like a big black bag and covered it with pink fur and like wrote little quotes and Tipp-Ex all over my big bag because I just loved creating. And this was like an outlet or a place where you could work and you could earn a living doing something creative for a human being every single day. And I was like, wow. But there was never a pinpoint in my life where I was like, that is why. It just was. It just was that way.
That is phenomenal. I think for anybody listening and to reconnect, sometimes I think if we are losing our mojo for what we do, is sometimes just go back to those things and remember what brought you into the industry and actually love that. And I kind of see that that's running through you even today, as you know, the salon that you got, and we're going to get onto that shortly. But that sort of crafty, creative aspect of you is very much at the heart of your salon business as well, isn't it? As well as the hairdresser. Yeah. And was your passions? I think that's probably, so you've got all that creativity and you've got all that passion. Was you very clear on the pathway that existed in the hair industry and the things that you could do and take?
No, never. I think I always just had, this is the next goalpost, if that makes sense. So it never was like, okay, I want to be a business owner. I want to have loads of team. I want to be working internationally. Like I never even knew it existed, to be honest. But once I got a job in Peter Mark and when I started to learn about doing competitions, it was like anything I wanted or put in my mind to, I would be able to achieve because no one would stop me. So no matter what people would say, so even in school, they would say, why are you going to be a hairdresser? Fill in your college forms. Why are you going to work? Like everyone would have this like kind of perspective and this opinion on what way I should do life. And I just was like, no, this is what I want now. And that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I feel like when you go into the industry, this is what I do for my team now is I give them a base and a foundation for them to explore what it is in their industry profession that the part of it they want to do. So our assistants, like they get to come and assist on shoots and shows, and they get to go and assist on weddings. They get to be a part of the journey for the client. It's like I want them to see all of it. And then
And I think that's so important, Danielle, for salon owners to really hear that as well. If you want to keep your staff, one, in the industry and motivated, you've got to really throw them and immerse them into that. And I guess because your passion has always been there and you've seen the opportunities and how that can really feed your craft and your artistic sort of skills, that's probably helping your staff to, one, be motivated and be better behind the chair, bringing in, greater money for them and greater money for the business.
Yeah, totally. I always say in work, and it's been for my career, I've always said this, that you're only as good as your last haircut, or you're only
Correct.
as good as your last client. Because, like, I have a client who is 89 who lives in a local area that's about 40-minute drive from me. And then I have clients who are like celebrities. And I will never treat somebody differently according to who they are or what they're known to the world. Like, I want to make sure my client Kathleen, who gets an upsell every 2 weeks and is 89 and really just wants me to be in her home, is like receiving the love from me as much as my client who's a celebrity who just wants me to do her hair for a TV show. I just think that we have that power, and once you remind your staff of that, then the clients are always happy.
100%. It's not rocket science, is it?
No,
I
it's
think
really
sometimes,
not.
I think we can overcomplicate it, but I can't say any more than, anybody that really does want to grow beyond. It is just, I think it's about loving what you do. And I think if you love
Yeah,
what you do, Danielle, then everything else will fall into place. You'll love your staff, you'll love your team, you'll love your clients. It's keeping that connection and that real passion.
yeah,
But your journey, you worked at Peter Martin, just for our listeners overseas, and not in probably the biggest sort of hairdressing name chain in Ireland. Would it be fair to say?
yeah. They have 72 salons in Ireland, but I think they're the biggest private limited company in Europe. Like, they're a huge company, and they're really, really, really good at training. Like, really
Yeah.
good.
But you spent around, I think, 11 years for Salon, and then you came a moment, I guess, where you wanted to do your own kind of thing. Have your life, create your life, and opening up your own business. So maybe you could just sort of take us into that moment and how this came about and what you wanted it to be.
Okay, so I had no idea what I wanted it to be. I didn't even know it was a thing. So what actually happened was I spent a long time in Petermark, and I got to the stage where I had reached every potential and every level that I had as a goal in the building under this roof. And I was very lucky to have a mentor and a manager as such. Cathal Keaveney, I don't know if you know him, but he's like the brother of Peter Mark, and he was nearly like a dad to me in Peter Mark. He was honestly such a lovely soul, and he had the passion of love and life and hairdressing that I had in my soul. So every time I would go to him with an idea or a concept or something that I wanted to do, he would always support me. And it got to the stage where I was like, I, I can't ask him for any more than what I've already asked for, because, like, they sent me on colour specialist degree, they sent me on all of the courses with Fidel Sassoon, they sent me like to London to work with at the international hair shows. I think it was the alternative hair show. Um, I then started to work in Fashion Week, and I would take my holidays from work so I could go to Paris and sit there and wait for somebody to tell me that I could get onto a show.
Wow.
And he would always be really supportive of that. But because I wanted to, Fashion Week and session styling was like my soul's desire at that time. I was like, there's nothing else that can make me happier than what I want to do while I'm away. There was nothing that Peter Mark could give me to support me on that journey, which is totally understandable. And there would be nothing that I could give to my team if they wanted to move internationally. Do you know what I mean? So it just got to the stage where I was like, I can't do anything else here. I need to go out on my ethical specialist degree in Petermark. And I think the fight of getting it so much wore me down a little bit too much, to the point that I started to like resent them. But it was like, I can't really describe it. I kind of felt like there was nothing more I could give to it of my soul to the company. And because I had to fight to get colour specialist degree, I was like on this journey of nearly like self discovery. And I do think that that happens in your colour specialist when you're learning about the depths of hair science. But you also learn about like what lighting you would need, and if you had a salon and stuff like that. So I kind of felt like basically you had to sign a contract for 2 years, and the 2 years felt too long for me to give my soul more of, if colour specialist was just something else I needed to tick the box of, and then I needed to go and do fashion week. And so a week after the colour specialist degree, we entered the L'Oreal Colour Trophy and we got second. And my goal was get colour specialist degree, get L'Oreal Colour Trophy, go to fashion week. And then a week after the L'Oreal Colour Trophy, I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go out on my own. So then I had to pay €80 a week for 5 years. No, it wasn't, for 3 years. €80 a week for 3 years back to Peter Mark for my colour specialist degree, because obviously I had signed a contract for the 2 years. Um, and to be honest, when I was leaving this company, it had given me so much that I didn't want to leave it with disrespect. And this is why I actually want to talk about this, because I think that this is what people need to understand in terms of like relationship and business. I wrote my boss call a 3-page essay about how much I loved him and like really just appreciated everything he did, and got him a beautiful present, left it on his desk. And I think having the fact that I had paid them back, my soul didn't owe them anything more than what they had given me, because I had given them as much as they had given me, and I knew that I would hold on to my integrity by making sure that I wasn't being mean or being a bit selfish. I needed to make sure that this is the goal, this is my path right now, and I have to just face whatever that path is going to throw at me, whether it's pay €80 a week for 3 years or whatever. Um, so yeah, sorry, that kind of went into a bit of it.
No, it's great. Thank you. I'm really, I appreciate what you're saying now. I think that's really good for anybody to hear. No matter how, we pivot in our lives. I've done podcasts plentiful on pivoting, and that's a great thing. Pivoting is we grow as people, and that's a great thing. And, we can work within salon spaces, freelance space, whatever, how we work. But there comes times where you want to move on. And I think that's really important, Danielle. But it's a way that we leave our places, isn't it? And I think you probably, as a successful salon owner that you are today, I think that you would probably want that back from anybody that's with you. You invest time and effort into people, leave things in a great way.
Yeah, I think so. And I think just, being a human and understanding that there is a human on the other end of whatever's happening, and whatever way they receive your information is going to just be what way they receive it. So you have to stay like honest and vulnerable and integral to what you believe in. And once you do that, then there's nothing that can be a problem. Do you know what I
And
mean?
I always see what a legacy, actually. Sometimes as salons, maybe we forget that when people leave, but to hear somebody that's gone through the training camp and had so many opportunities to talk about that, like you are today at Peter Mark, that's just great for a brand in itself, isn't it? That,
Yeah.
your other people are going to hear that. And I think that's a great company to work for. They've helped develop. And I'm sure, like you are, and if you ever have your team members that move on, you want them to move on in the best way, that they can talk highly and say they really helped me become the person that I am. It's like your own little family, isn't it? Your children, as I know you're a mum yourself of, is it a son, daughter? You
A
have?
son. He's 4.
He's
Harrison.
4. Harrison, that's it. Yeah, I remember reading. But, you're going to see him grow up and eventually go off and do his thing. Actually, while I'm on that, how's that been, being a successful entrepreneur you are and a mum?
Oh God. Um. Yeah. It's really just on that last bit you said there. I think what we need to do as an industry is remove our ego. So in a parenting concept, when you remove your ego and you stop thinking about what should be right now or what should be given to you and think about what the person needs, you then have a very different perspective on life. So as my 4-year-old might have a tantrum because he doesn't want to have Weetabix this morning, I'm like, he's tired because last night he wasn't given this amount of space. So I do think that it's all about communication and removing the desire of your needs in that conversation, with whether it's a toddler or it's your staff member. So okay, so in 2017, I decided to open my own business, and I literally the reason why I'm going to go through this, you'll hear in a second. Um, I was looking for literally a room for me to work. I the place that I found was in Ranelagh in Dublin, and it was up for 23 minutes on the housing site. And I literally just went into it and I was like, here, that's mine now. And that's just what it was. So I started in the August, and in the December, myself and my boyfriend, who had just started working with me as my admin on my admin side because he was in college studying, we were like, let's have a baby. Let's have a baby, blah blah blah. Have
My
a
God.
baby. Why not? And 6 days later, I was pregnant. So the first year of my business, I was growing a baby on my own in my business. Like I literally was only doing clients on my own. I had no staff members, had no intention of having a staff member. And my boyfriend was doing like all my bridal emails, all the back stuff that I didn't have time to do. When I opened my business, I was like, oh, I have so much more free time. It's going to be so much easier. I'll be able to make more money and I'll have so much free time. And then I was working like 12 shifts a day, 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, pregnant. I remember the day I found out I was pregnant, it was the 16th of January. I had 29 consultations. So I do, when I first started my business, I had this ick about consultations being between clients.
Excuse me.
And
Yeah, come on.
that's okay. I had this ick about consultations being between clients. And I was like, I just don't like when I'm doing my client's hair, I'm loving the experience, and then a new person walks into our zone. I have 15 minutes to talk to them about their whole life, allergy test them, skin test them, get them a deposit, book them in. Just wasn't a vibe. So I used to allocate Mondays to just doing consultations. So I did 29 consultations this day, and I was worn out. And on the way home, got a pregnancy test, and I was like, right, pregnant. Now what am I gonna do? Yeah, it was wild. So, the first 6 months of business, I was trying to grow a baby and also grow a business. And then it quickly developed that my best friend was like, she had worked in Tony and Guy for 12 years or something. I was like, any chance? I think I put it up on my Instagram. Does anybody want to work here? Um, with me because I'm pregnant and I need someone to look after the clients. And she texted me saying, how do I apply for a job in Wildflower? And I was like, sorry, what? So she started with me. Then in the July, I had my baby in October of 2018. And in the July, I just like put up that I was gonna get two more staff or one more staff members. And then two people came for the interview, and I literally said to them, I don't know if I can pay your wages. I don't know if I have clients for you. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to send you on a course, but I'm here, have clients. I'll teach you everything I know. You want to work with me? And they both said yeah. So I had two more staff
Wow.
members. So honestly, my journey of parenthood and my journey of business has very much aligned as one. I've never like I had to get an emergency C-section when I had Harrison, and I was back to work after 2 weeks, sitting there trying to manage the business because my manager was also pregnant at the same time and went on maternity leave early. And Honestly, it's been an absolute whirlwind. But I think for him as a human being, he's never too attached to me to not go to somebody else. And he would just be with me when he was like really young, when I was should have been on maternity leave. I would just bring him to work and I would do my client's hair and he'd be sitting on their lap. And yeah, just did life because you had to.
Yeah. I think just hearing you share that story is really powerful. I think it will resonate so much. And I know, when we had Sophia Hilton on the podcast in the very early days, and she talked about, when she had, Hendrix, I believe,
Yeah.
and I've had, we've had a few more of our guests recently talk about this, but it's actually really good to hear how you can make it work. It works. And I guess it's because you want to make this work and you don't want to lose out on the experience of having that family, but equally having the business. So I think that's really powerful for people to know that you can
Yeah.
do both of these.
I think there's a huge stigma around once you become a parent or once you become a mom, um, you're not allowed to do the things that you always did, or you're not the same person. But you're never going to be the same person once you have a child because your life creates this whole new profound perspective that you are supporting somebody else's world. And I think we also have to remember that when you become a parent, you don't become just a parent. You're guiding a child on their own journey of life because you can't change what that's going to be. So being like beside them and mentoring them is a much better way of doing life so that they can see and learn from your mistakes. Whereas if you're just like, I feel like you just surrender to them and give them everything, you're nearly left as an empty shell when they then still go on their journey of life that you can't decide.
Brilliant. Thank you. I couldn't agree more with that. It's having your own identity, isn't it? It's like what we were just
Yeah,
saying. You want to give them the best life. And I think for any child, and my mum was a salon owner too, so I grew up around hairdressing, so I get it. I spent many a times in people's houses as she went round doing blow drying before I
oh, I
started
love that.
school. Yeah, it was, so I think that's why it really resonates with me. People, when they talk about having children, having their business, but it never took anything away from me. It made me come into the industry, but I think
Yeah,
respected really my mum for what she done, and to see you work so hard with a passion, and I think is a great thing. But you've got to have energy for this, haven't you? It's not easy,
yeah,
Danielle. And anybody that thinks that this this winner and entrepreneur and international session stylist and everything else that you've become hasn't just happened because you've done some posts on Instagram. This is a journey that goes right back to you
yeah,
being
it
that girl
really
that
is.
started out. And I think that that's so important for anybody to have. You can have a wonderful dream and a wonderful opportunity. I don't think it make any of us multimillionaires, but it gives you an incredible life experiences of what you're doing right now. And to do a business takes a lot of courage for sure. A lot of people I know will listen to this and they'll probably be thinking, so, you open up the salon business that we're talking about is Wildflower. Was there a big investment that needed to go into this? And, you've had to throw huge amounts of money at opening up this business that you now have.
Uh, so the way to start it is, do you have credit unions in England?
We may do. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of it. Somebody may correct me on that, but I'll let you
Okay,
tell
so
us what that
in
is.
Ireland, you have they're called credit unions. They're basically like the community. It's nearly like the community savings kind of place. It's nearly like a post office savings or something. And you can get loans from them. So I got a credit union loan for 10 grand to open the studio. I painted the walls, kept the floors the same, and um honestly it was like someone did a DIY shop. Like if you saw what Wildflower was, I didn't what Wildflower wasn't a Wildflower until I there and figured out what I wanted it to be, because the the place was literally just a room for me to work. It wasn't more than that. So I think it took me about 3 months to get a name, and it was literally. I remember one of my old stylists that I used to work with in Petermark and O'Connell Street lent me 10 grand after the 10 grand I had gotten had already been spent. Um, and he was like, if you want to, I paid him like a bit of interest on it, so like he was kind of like an investor. But in terms of investment, it was always just do the clients, earn the money, get something else. Like I literally started. I remember the first day I opened, I had an IKEA circular mirror on the ground, couldn't even have it on the wall, and I had IKEA office chairs as my clients' chairs.
Good old IKEA.
God, hell, IKEA. But I remember I actually don't care, because if the clients want their hair done, they want to be here, they'll come. I do think though, since in the like last 5 years, we're 5 years in business now, um, I'd say we've done about four renovations, and it
Wow.
was always
So there's
like,
a lot of renovations.
yeah, it was like, okay, we have four staff members now, we need four chairs, we have two basins. Okay, now we have eight staff members. Okay, now we need more chairs. Now we need more basins. Okay, now we have 14 staff members. Okay, we're gonna have to do a rejig around here. So like it was like the business that it organically grew into a business, and
Love
now
it.
it's like 20 staff members and it has like 4,000 clients. It's honestly mental. Like it's crazy.
Congratulations to you, though, Danielle. I think to hear that is so brilliant to hear. Certainly, because we hear lots of negativity. We know it's not easy out there. We all know that. And we can cover negativity so often. But I think it's
Yeah,
great to hear the powerful stories where people, yeah, have really built something. And there are challenges. I'm absolutely sure it's not always plain sailing when you're dealing with staff and headaches. And the bigger your
yeah.
business has become, probably the tougher it's become, I guess.
I actually don't know about that in terms of growth. I think that what happens is, you think you're a hairstylist. I think what will happen is, if you stay a hairstylist and forget to be a business owner, your problems are completely different to the problems of if you're a business owner, and you have that perspective, and you have like that them challenges. It's like they're not harder, they're just really different. But I
Are
think
you a
that,
business owner? Are you
yeah,
a business person?
100%. I actually really love business now. But I wasn't a business owner until I was like 4 years into business. I
What
was just
made
a
you fall
hairdresser.
more in love with Yeah, because I kind of get that, if you don't mind me saying that. And that's why I love this story, is because, and we'll get onto it actually in a minute, is, a lot of it is intuition with you. You kind of get that. And I sort of feel that that's a brand. But, you didn't talk of any great business plan when you started. It was, let's get in it. Here's the space. Let's go with intuition, I guess, is what that,
Yeah,
but there wasn't much. But as you're talking, you can hear that there's a real business person there. And I guess you kind of saw that. Did you have to become that business person?
yeah. Um, like when I first opened my doors, I had 564 clients on my forest system, and now there's like 4,500 or something. But I think what I acknowledged was, I can either use an hour to cut my client's hair and make one person happy, or I can use an hour to develop my business and make 20 people happy, which then ripple on to 20 people that day that they look after to be happy. So I was like, if my goal in life is to build a community of happiness and like love and kindness, where is my time more valuable? And that's when I became a business owner.
So
And I
that
think
question would always be, how many days do you work behind the chair? Because that's a famous question that people like to know.
one day a month.
So you work behind the chair one day a month.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is fantastic. When did you take that step? When was it that you thought, I'm ready now to, because you started 6 days behind the chair. I
Yeah.
guess you gradually decrease that. When was that moment you thought, yeah, I'm going to come away from working behind the chair as much as I do?
So, I went down after I had Harrison. I went down to 3 days a week behind the chair, and then I remember. So my boyfriend was actually at home minding Harrison. That's how we had Harrison. Was he was at home minding Harrison and was studying for college and was also doing my admin work, so he could get paid to be at home. Um, and then I could go out to work more. But what I needed to do was do the hair to get the clients in, to get the money in, to be able to pay everyone to do the stuff. But as the years went on, after I'd had Harrison, I was like, okay, I'm going to do 3 days behind the chair. And then the next year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do 2 days behind the chair. But the pinnacle point for me, and I can't remember, to be honest, a specific time, but the pinnacle point was for me was every day I was going to work, I wasn't even looking at the client's hair anymore. I was thinking about the things that needed to be done that I could tell the other people to do over at that desk, and I kept hounding them. So I'd like have it say a section here, the desk could be here, and I'd be like, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you write that down for me? Can someone make a list?" And that point for me was like, this isn't fair for the client anymore. I love this client so much, and I did have a huge problem with letting go. I was like, if I let go of my clients, they're probably not going to be come back because maybe they won't like anyone as much as me. But then that's me doing a disservice to the other stylist who is as good as me, or if not better, and can look after them so much better because they have so much attention with them. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time for me to take a step back, focus on the business, make sure that everybody is developed in their mindset and in their skill set, and then do like a pocket of clients. I do a lot of like low maintenance services and stuff that like lasts people say 6 months to a year. So I have a lot of clients, but they don't come in that often. So I started to do things where I would do a client's hair, say 1 month, then in 3 months' time they came back into another stylist or an assistant for a toner, and then it'd come into another stylist for say a half head, and then they'd come back to me. So I kind of worked it that way that I could keep them because I love them so much. They're like friends. They come to me years. But I did have to. I was like, do I stay behind the chair and be miserable, even though I love my craft, or do I focus on how I can help everybody else, and then I can always go back to the chair if that's what my heart desires.
And while we're on that, then, let's get on to intuition with you, because I know it's a lot about how you built your brand. You can hear that's how everything's kind of gone. You're going with your heart. This is what I
Yeah,
feels right. Is that why you listen to and follow your own intuition, Danielle?
yeah. I think when you know, and I mean when you are in a conversation with somebody and you know that they are happy or that they are um uncomfortable. If I'd be very empathetic, so I could feel the other person's emotion before I nearly actually become the other person's emotion too much so that I have to protect myself. Um, so when I can
That's really
feel
interesting.
my pardon,
That's really interesting. Sorry, I've just
yeah,
carry on. Carry on.
someone recently just told me that I'm a Heyoki empath, and it's like somebody who has a superpower empathetic system that can be nearly like a sacred clown. So you nearly mimic what the other person is doing, or you will show up in a way that somebody needs to receive information. So, like if you're being kind of rude to me, I could then turn back into being like, no, I'm going to be really kind to you now, so that you don't be rude to me because nobody should feel like that. So sometimes I can be very nearly confrontational without even knowing. Um, so I just did that brain fog thing where I was like, what's the question?
That's brilliant. I'm absolutely blown with ditto on what you're just. So we were just talking about intuition. No, you're kind of sort of leading it there. Really, it's about sort of
Yeah,
following your intuition and your passion. So yeah, just sort of carrying on that. So you kind of what you're saying is that you almost sense what you feel. People, you can feel their energy and the way that you can be, and you know. But
yeah.
this obviously your intuition has led you to where you are. So you know why you're so passionate about this.
So it's kind of like I had this passion, I had this goal, and I had this desire for my heart and my gut and my soul. So I know that my body and my soul is fully aligned to what I should be doing. You know the way they say you're supposed to have a soul's purpose. I've
Correct. Yeah.
never felt like I haven't had a soul's purpose. I've always just been like, this is what my heart desires right now, and I'm going to do it because it's too hard for me to sit in a place where I don't belong or where I'm pushing or I'm putting too much effort in because I do things I can't half do anything. I can't do something I don't want to do, or I can't do something that um doesn't align to who I am. So my intuition is very strong. I think if you think about the word intuition, there's an intuition of what your heart desires to do in life, but that can pivot and change. And following it is like, hey, this is just a map of life. But then there's also an intuition of understanding and acknowledging the room and acknowledging the elephant in the room. And if there's a problem, to confront it with vulnerability and open, honest conversations. So I think when you're aligned with what your soul's supposed to do and you're aligned with the people that you're around because you trust them, because they trust you, it's a lot easier to do life. Does that make sense?
I think that's absolutely amazing. Really strong stuff. Yeah, because I get intuition all the time. You know, I spoke about pivot, and I think, but we have to know when there are times to move on, when to say no, not be frightened of following
Yeah.
your heart and being guided by that, because there may come that point. I'm not going to hover into this point, but there may come times where in your career you may think, I want to change this and mix it up again. And I guess probably what I'm going to say, there is something that you are doing a little bit different again, and we'll come on to that again shortly.
Yeah.
But just was we're on intuition, and I think it's about protecting the people in your workplace and letting them sort of find their own intuition and their energy, and that's certainly based on clients that they choose and work with. So this is, I know, something that you kind of do at Wildflower, isn't it? You allow the
Yeah.
team to choose their clients based on intuition and energy, and that's a big thing to sort of say and allow your team to sort of operate in that way. Could you just maybe talk us through a bit on this part?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, I think, 11 stylists that work on the floor now. And my goal was, so the definition of a wildflower, and this is why we have a business called this, is a free spirit, uncultivated by the mainstream, wild and free in a world plagued by conformity. And I always found when we think of a corporate setting, when we think of an environment where you are industrialized into a way of working, if we think about the happiness of our being in that state, we're forcing ourselves to do things we don't want to do. So when I hire a team member, we go on a journey of 6 weeks of self development with them. So I will make them, not make them, but like get them to bring in clients and models that they want to learn more of, or say if there's a niche in their specialty they want to go into, I'll like channel them into that and showcase them all that I have to give to them in that area. So whether that's bridal or styling or cutting or colouring, will like funnel into whatever they need to learn. So then when they go onto the floor and they have consultations, if someone doesn't align to what they want to do, so like, when you're in your, when you're doing a client and you're like, this is the vibe, this is me all over and I
100%.
am buzzing. Why
100%.
why would you not want to do more of them? And I think that,
That's so right, so true. I love hearing
yeah,
that.
I'm like, I remember I had this one client who was a mullet, and every time she came in, I was like, I just don't know if I'm doing this right. I know I can do it. I know it looks good every time. It's not my vibe. And then one of our stylists, Orla, started, and she is obsessed with shags and mullets and wolf haircuts. And I was like, Alva, you know what? Orla's your girl. And like it's kind of like sharing that, like, you know, that this person adores that style. So
Right.
why can't they just thrive in that area?
Yeah. Well, what you're almost doing here, Danielle, is you're kind of allowing that independence of your employee, your stylist, to be the stylist that they want to be, rather than
Yeah,
this is our brand and we must all do hair that reflects in that brand. It's about, your brand is about, intuition and energy of letting people have their own independence and really let them thrive in what they do. So you may get somebody who loves doing shags, and then you've got the other person who loves doing big blowouts. I mean, that's,
yeah. Like
so
I have
different.
two really, like Carl is like mad about, he's our newest member. He's mad about like big bouncy blow dries, and then Orla is like shag haircuts. But when they both started, I showed them techniques of all different things they can do. I then was like, okay, what is it that you want? And let's create your Instagram portfolio for what you want. So then when we showcase you on our Wildflower Instagram, it's what you want, not what I want.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
to be
And
honest, like, to be honest, if Wildflower disintegrated, I'm not going to die. No one's going to die. Like, it'll just move on to the next thing. And I think if like business owners removed that need of ego to like um validate what their success is in their life, and said, okay, how can I help this community that I have right now to be the best versions of themselves, we probably see a lot more thriving businesses. Because like, uh, I know we're hearing, oh, there's a freelance world, or independence is the way to be, or we're having trouble with staff members, like not being able to recruit. I haven't had issues with any of that, because if somebody wanted to then become independent, like one of my stylists was like, I really want to be an educator, I really, really want to be an educator. And I was like, okay, let's create this platform for you to educate. And then it got to the stage where he was like, I can't work in the salon anymore. And I was like, babe, you need to go. Because if you don't go, you're not going to learn. But like, there's a place for everybody. And to be honest, like that person is Joe Connor Doyle. He's been on here before. When he was working in Wildflower, I got to the stage at the end, and I was like, you can't be here anymore because there's too many people helping you, and my team are too busy for you to do that. So like, me and him had like organic being like, enough's enough now. Do you know what I mean? So I just think if you remove the ego from all of it, and you don't need the validation, allowing someone to strive is going to be the best option for you and them.
I love this. This is such a good conversation, I have to
Yeah, it
say.
is, isn't
Well,
it?
honestly, I was absolutely mega, right up my street, all of this. Yeah, I agree. I think it's exactly that. And never let your ego get in the way here, Daniel. And it goes back to you, doesn't it? Leaving Peter Mark, and yeah, I need to go off and do. But it's about allowing that now in your Wildflower. And I love how you came up with the name. And I knew at some point you were going to tell me the name of how you came up with it. I thought, I'm not going to ask you that because I'm sure a lot of people would ask you Wildflower. But I love how that really fits in. And even talking to you and that energy that we have through a camera, I feel, for me, if I was going to sort of say to someone, I love this business model, I love how these people are really working, I think you would really hit that mark on there for me. And if, my son said, like, I was going to go and work at Wildflower, I'd be like, that sounds great. Yeah, because
Oh,
you're
that's
allowing the
lovely.
independence of a person, but you're with a salon owner, business, the entrepreneur of that shop who really is connected to the industry, and you love the industry and you love
Yeah.
growing and developing. I think that is so, so important. And I guess for a lot of people as well, that I would imagine how they work. at your salon is important. Is, you know, I guess what I'm trying to get to here, in a long-winded way, I'm sorry, but is I want to work in a place that I really feel nice, that there's a nice balance to how I work. And I think that you're very much about that, aren't you, with Wildflower? That you're making sure that everybody has a good balance of how they work.
Yeah. So when so I kind of analyzed why I wanted to leave the corporate way of salon hairdressing. And when I kind of got down to the understanding of it, it was like, I only want to do clients I want to do. I don't want to be shoving blow dryers into my client's gap if I have a gap, because I can't deal with my day being disrupted. So we don't really do that. We don't really like allow people just walk in and get their hair done, because I'm like, no, sorry. We need time here. We need to see if you're right for us. Then we'll see when we have time for you. Then we'll see if you're willing to pay the deposit, and then we'll do your hair. So I think that protecting the energy of the team on a day-to-day basis really, really helps with that. But so I was like, I don't want to have to work when I don't want to work. So I just kind of say, come to work when you want to come to work. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. And like, if people want to work in your business, they're going to work when they want to work. But if you're telling them when they have to work, they don't really want to do that. So we have a basis where they work 3 long days. Some work 2, some work 1. And my goal is, please don't come to work, or please don't tell me you will work if you don't want to work, because that means your energy will be shit. And what you will give off is that you are unhappy in your environment or your day, and then your clients will be unhappy with their hair because they think they did something wrong or you did something to their hair. And I've always just been like, if you want to take time off, the business will surrender to whatever it is you need, as long as we have an advance. As it's grown and developed with the 20 staff members, we've had to kind of had a cap where tell us in like 6 weeks time that you need to take time off. But we like to do things where, so as we've developed clientele with each individual artist has a special relationship with the clients. So then, say if somebody needs a Wednesday off, rather than me saying either no, I don't think I've ever said no to somebody. If I have to say no, they can move it to another day where there's space for that clientele to come in that day. Or they need to take holidays. I just don't understand why it's an issue.
Oh my gosh, you know, well, we haven't got that, and you know, we're not at 90% capacity, and I don't have 20, you know, staff, and I'm still working 4 or 5 days behind a chair. That doesn't mean that they're failing, does it? I think that's really important for people to know.
I really think that as long as your happiness is like, I think people are always comparing themselves, and I just recently had to come off Instagram for a long time because I was like, I can't do this anymore. People are trying to consume this energy that like someone else's life is better, or someone else's life is what you should be doing. But actually, if you're happy to get up every single morning, your habits are correct, you're like mindful in your day, you're kind to your fellow human beings that you're around, like you don't need to compare yourself. I think that that's what the whole life of pivoting it is like, if you're unhappy in your circumstances of what you are doing in this time, how can you create a goalpost to pivot that? And it's not say stop doing clients right now, move on to doing 1 day a month clients. It's like pivot it to create a community where they can take your clients, and then you can step back and do a different thing. But is that what you want? It's all about making sure that you're aligned to exactly who you want to be. And if that's doing clients 4 days, 5 days a week, do it, because that's what makes you happy and the people that you're with happy. I think the whole comparison world is crazy.
I agree. I think it's becoming ever so difficult for everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think that if you are involved in the world of social media, I think it's draining everybody right now. As whether you're successful or not, it's becoming an obsession of almost validation from from viral from people that you don't know, and
Yeah.
then you start looking and you start comparing. What are these people getting? Are they getting a lot of likes? Are they getting more clients than we are getting? And you just got to focus on you. I know that.
Yeah.
Get back to focusing on you. Follow your intuition. Follow your heart. What you just said there, whether you're rich or poor, if you wake up every day and you're happy,
What else does it matter?
that's your wealth is
I
in
know.
happiness.
My
And
boyfriend has just become a teacher in the last year, and his goal in life is to be a teacher, history and an Irish teacher.
great.
And every single day he wakes up happy, and I'm like, babe, you have it sussed. You have it
Yeah,
sussed.
100%. It is, you know, I mean, that's so much of what life is about. And I think if there's anything that we're all going through in lessons in life and the journeys, and just get up and be excited about your day.
Yeah.
I know that's easy for us to sit here and say that if you're facing difficulties, but
I'm facing difficulties
listen
right
to
now.
them.
There's so much like that I have going on in my own life that like I'm like, wow, this is deep. But I think that
Yeah.
I read
And we
this.
don't see all these things, do we?
Yeah, we don't, and that's why I was like, no, get off social media. Like maybe put. I think I read this book called A New Earth. Have you read it? It's by
I
Eckhart
haven't,
Tolle.
no. Oh,
It's
yes, I have.
oh,
Eckhart Tolle, I'm absolutely all over.
yeah, he's
I listen to
unbelievable.
his podcast as well.
I actually haven't listened to his podcast, but I read this book
Do.
three times, and only the last time I read it, I actually could resonate with it. And what I realized was even just my phone, it like having emails, having all the different communication lines. Like I'd have like 70 unread messages on my WhatsApp, and it would cause me so much stress to go onto it that I just read the first four and then I just throw it away. And I had to delete every single app off the phone and just have WhatsApp so that I could communicate with people that I love. And that book really resonated with me to be like, no, be present in the moment and be happy. But it's torture
It's
to do it.
it is absolutely painful to do, and it's really
So
hard to
hard.
do because what he's saying, you can't think forward, you can't think back, you have to just think now, because now
Yeah.
is the only thing that, don't worry about the being nervous, because it's now. It's incredible. Someone else, and I knew that's why I connected, because I think obviously if you like that and I like that, we're
Yeah.
on a similar thinking. So yeah, 100%. And he done a series, again, sorry listeners if we're gone off on a bit of a tangent, but I highly recommend that if you are very much into the presence and the energy, and I think his look at our being is actually really good, and ultimately what he talks about is ego. You know, the ego gets in the way, and actually
Yeah.
that's what's wrong with everything in life,
In
and I
the
think
whole
it's
world.
so true. Because it's all built on ego. Ego
Yeah.
is the thing, and I think, like I say, great read. Go and have a listen to it. But look, let's just bring this to its end. I know that you're on a new project, and Wholehearted. What is this briefly, and why?
So basically the basement of Wildflower flooded, and we had no staff room, no stock room, no storage space. And I was like, okay, I need to find another place. Then I found it took me about 6 months to find it, and I found this place. It's honestly a warehouse, and I was like, this is my dream that I originally had when I opened Wildflower. So I basically wanted a place for creatives to just be in community. So I have created that with Wildflower, but I also acknowledge the fact that I would not be able to have this new space without Wildflower, because Wildflower funds the life of Wholehearted. So Wholehearted is a new place for creatives, not just hairdressers, to um be in a wholehearted way of living. So I would say that wholeheartedly is like aligning to your purpose and making sure that you're doing what your heart desires. So it's kind of for people who are creative in, say, photography, or people who love to create space for yoga, um, events for like education. It's a space for people to come and utilize what it is that they love to do. So we have on a Monday we will do our classes there. So it's a creative environment for our assistants to learn in and immerse ourselves in. And then we have an office space where I have a brand called Moon and My, and it's like a healing crystals hair accessory brand. And then we also have like natural dyed fabrics that we create bows and stuff like that. And we have our warehouse, not our warehouse, our workshop there. And we also have like I kind of want to have a huge big backdrop thing there where like photographers can come in and use, but it's also like a content creation studio. So if you were like a hairstylist who didn't have the means to be able to do like a creative day, you could come and just work in this space, bring models, and utilize it to be able to create stuff
Sounds
that you want
wonderful.
to do.
Me and you are going to be talking about this space, and because
Yeah.
I have seen that's bubbling away, and I must admit I do want to pop over to Ireland again soon. I
Oh
have
yeah.
such an affinity with Ireland. Just well, you know, as many of us do here in England, but you don't become a Lahan without my dad's Irish. So I feel that real connection still with Ireland, and the honesty and the passion. I'm so glad for social in lots of ways, and it's opened up a community of what's gone on in Ireland and the excitement and the new blood that's coming through. And people like you, Danielle, I think I've found you so motivational and inspirational. And you know, it's easy to say that, but genuinely, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think to kick off my first interview of 2023 like this, and to hear is, yes, a real good one. I have to
Thank
say,
you.
regardless of the difficulties and the battles and the challenges that go on in the background, you should sit there and feel extremely proud of where you've come. And I think you should feel very excited where you're going, because I think if you keep it all together, then I just think you're doing things. You're a generation that is what's taking our industry forward right now.
Thank
And
you.
I really like that. So it's
I
been
feel like
great.
I've
We'll
so
put
much more
all.
to say.
Well, do you know what,
I
look,
know it's
Danielle?
wild,
It's
isn't it?
great. Me and you are going to be talking much more. Actually, I'm
Yeah.
absolutely convinced of that. There's so much we have got going on right now with How to Cut It that this is only just a small bit, but 100%. It's great. Look, links. I think you're on social. If you want to deep dive more in
Yeah.
with Danielle, I'm sure and you do some education work as well. I think that's always good to just shout out. Do
Yeah.
you offer sort of like education in Ireland, and do you travel? What's all that about?
So my education, I really wanted to allow people to be in that immersive environment where they could be honest. You know, that kind of like
Mm,
not going into an education space where you're nervous, you're going to do something wrong, you're not good enough. So I wanted to bring education to the hairdressing world, and I am a cacao facilitator. So it's kind of like this drink where you can be like more creative, and it's kind of got energetic compounds in it. Um, so I do a course called Runway to Bride, and it's where we're linking the two of catwalk hairstyles and bridal hairstyles, so that styling can be a little bit more um like alternative. And then I also do a coloring course called sustainable coloring, because I've deep dived in this world of trying to use non-toxic brands and doing coloring services that last a lot longer for the client, so they get a lot out of it. And then I also do collaborations with Grace Dalgleish, who we're doing one on the 4th of, I think, 4th or 5th of February in our Wholehearted space. Yeah, and I'm kind of just delving into the world of education in the last year, but I'm finding it really, really beautiful to help people.
good. And so, if people, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's always nice to get it from you, from the lips of the person who's doing it. So, where do we find out all this? Where do we keep in touch with your education and everything else that you're doing?
So my Instagram is Danielle Garner underscore. Um, on my Instagram, I have a link tree, and if you go into the link tree, I have all my different businesses and all the different inquiries, and I also have a website, so I'll link you to that. And you can
Brill.
do education, so I can come to your salon, or you can come to me on certain courses that I have as
Brilliant.
well. Yeah.
Well, we'll put the link tree in to our show notes for everybody as well. So at the end, I'll give a shout out, and we'll guide you on. Look, Danielle, I just want to say thank you so much for being a great guest. Honestly, it's been brilliant talking to you today.
Oh, I'm so happy. I really feel like I was able to explain who we are. So that was
You've done that extremely
beautiful.
well. Honestly, that was one of